All right, everybody, we're back. That's right, we're back. And what do I mean by back? Because I've been around, I haven't gone anywhere. But the rewatch series, we're excited to get that rewatch series. I was so excited for the movies that we did. Spider-Man rewatch, we did Star Wars, and you guys have just been so fantastic. And obviously, Matrix, it's been so fantastic in the feedback. And there's been more questions as far as what movies are going to rewatch, how are we going to do it, and we decided that we're going to line up whatever the big releases are, and if there's enough movies to do that, right? And obviously, the big release this year, and my most anticipated, and a lot of people's most anticipated, is the Batman, with Robert Pattinson, Matt Reeves directing, so many great people inside of it. So we were like, okay, well, we got about 7 weeks to do this. So how many movies are we going to watch? What are we going to do? And who are we going to do? Who are we going to have to be on the show? And I know you guys love Winston and Coy, but unfortunately, they were both available. So we got Winston and Coy. So we're going to be doing myself, Winston, Coy, going to be talking about Batman. Because there's only 7 weeks, we're choosing 7 movies. There's going to be some where you guys will be like, oh, you missed this one, you missed that one. And I said, I know, but there's going to be an explanation as far as why, if we miss some, how we're going to make that up. Don't worry about it. But what I will tell you to worry about is subscribe to this mother effing channel. Do it. Hit the subscribe button. Notification buttons also. Apple Podcast, Spotify. We're moving up on Spotify, really cooking on Spotify. But you guys, whether you listen to this show on YouTube or not, and you're paying attention on video, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Helps tremendously. Helps keep us on the air. No donations here. But I'm ready to get going, man. We're going to do the rewatch of Batman 1989. Tim Burton, the one who really kind of kicked us off into the Batman live action, not including the Adam West one. I know, but this is a big one. This was still gold standard to a lot of people on a superhero movie, but we're going to talk about all of that and more. Jack Nicholson, Michael Keaton, Kim Basinger, Robert Wuhl. Man, where's he been? All right, let's get into this. Come on, it's the big thing. What's up, everybody? Here we are. It is the big thing. And it is. Oh, look at these guys. Look at these guys. And I'm even going to give them this. Boom. Look at that. It is the big thing. And it is Winston A. Marshall, Coy Jandreau. I have been away from these guys because it is a stupid time.
Hey man,
plague times.
I won't lie. It made me kind of sad. You whatever joke you did about, like, I know you guys love Coy, I know you guys love Winston, and unfortunately they were available. So I hardcore laughed, but I was like, I'm fucking muted. If we were in the same place, you would have heard me in the back talking about ha. Like,
yeah, that was a full cackle. Like I elicited a full well done.
Thank you, and I like the fact that within 3 minutes and 12 seconds, you guys being on the air, probably within 75 seconds, Winston has already dropped an F-bomb, so that's good.
Oh, there it is. I got it out of the way. Got it out of the way.
There'll be more. You can't control him. He's at his house.
My favorite is that when people are like, "Why should I being so tough on the F-bomb? You curse all the time. They're in regular." And yeah, but this Batman, kids are tuning into this. Like, am I a little bit more? I'm a little. When it comes to big thing, it's like you let it fly a little bit. I mean, if you heard George Lucas and Morgan Freeman and Jeff Goldblum on the show on last Thursday or yesterday, you would know that that F-bombs were aplenty. And we're probably gonna get some more here. But this is. Coy, we talked about it off air, man. The Batman series, we figured, okay, we got 7 weeks until we think Batman is coming out. The Batman is coming out. So we chose 7 movies. You want to tell the audience which 7 we're going to do?
So I figure with the structure of the 4 movies kind of feeling like a unit, you go from the Keaton to the Schumacher as a unit. You've got the same Alfred there. So those films definitely feel like weirdly a quadrilogy, and they're actually packaged together. And then Nolan is 3 because you've got his trilogy. So that's beautifully 7. I love Ben Affleck's Batman. I think Batfleck is one of the best, but conveniently, it is a year of 3 Batmans because we have Flashpoint coming out this year. So what we can do is watch these 7 now and then watch all the Batflecks leading up to Flashpoint. That way we reflect both series, and it kind of gives us more of that Snyder flavor leading into Andy Muschietti's Batman. I think that's the move.
Yeah, Winston, I was thinking of this, man, is that because, to be honest with you, we probably could have even done the Batman, the Burton Batmans plus Schumacher to lead up to the Flash or Flashpoint or whatever, because that almost ties in even more.
Keaton more directly.
Yes, but the Nolan movies to me, if you look at the tone of what we've seen in the trailer thus far in the Batman, that to me is the best rewatch out of it. But we already we've got 7 weeks. We figured why not, and we can use it as reference later on. And because Ben Affleck's supposed to show up in the Flash also.
That's what I'm thinking. And if and when they move the Batman, we can watch a Mask of the Phantasm and some goodness.
No. I think that's a smart move. You're just looking at how the math works. We would have between. I'm sure all of y'all are aware of this. If the world didn't decide to re-end all over again, we would have done more. But this is what time is permitted. So I think that's the perfect solution to the problem, because we'll still cover everything by the time the year is out, since we have 2 Batman films to work with. But I think this is a great game plan.
What a gift!
I know. Well, it's a good start also because if we wait any longer for us to get back in studio, we probably aren't going to do any of these movies at all. So we figured let's just do it. I've been taking guests. I just had Josh Robert Thompson on. I'm having Freddie Prinze Jr. on. Danny Fernandez is coming on. We have Bobby Moynihan coming on the show. Jamie Kennedy coming on the show. We got a lot of guests.
Are you going to talk Screaming Jamie Kennedy? Because I
have to. I want to see if he's seen it at that point. But Steve Zaragoza, Jessica Chobot. We have so many great guests coming up.
Send my love to Jamie Kennedy. For whatever reason, yesterday I decided to rewatch Malibu's Most Wanted.
Oh man!
The funniest part about that movie is definitely Anthony Anderson and Taye Diggs. That was insane, but it is quite the movie.
I'll tell you, who I reached out to before we get into this Batman thing. Who I also reached out to was, were either one of you guys Sopranos fans? I forget. Not really.
I haven't seen it. All
right. So on the Sopranos is Steve Sciarippa, who played Bobby Bacala for a handful of seasons, a big part in it. And his show with Michael Imperioli, Talking Sopranos, was like a massive hit over the last 2 years, especially in the lead up to Many Saints in Newark. And Steve Sciarippa followed me back on Twitter because he actually booked me for a comedy when I opened for Jimmy Walker back at Riviera Hotel in Vegas. And I reached out and we started following me. So I reached out to him and I said, hey, so you wanted to go on the show? He's like, I'm not doing press at this time, blah, blah, blah. And I wrote back, I go, I ain't press, with in parentheses, Queens.
Ooh, get him. Bing Bong. I learned about Bing Bong yesterday on SCN, bro. So I
just learned about Bing Bong?
I didn't know what it was. I had no idea what it was.
And Inside Out?
TikTok's another language.
Yeah, see, I'm talking about Inside Out, so I have no clue.
Oh, it's apparently a New Yorker thing. New Yorkers are just out here talking about Bing Bong all the time at the end of everything.
Young New Yorkers. All right, let's
TikTok New Yorkers.
Let's do it. Here it is. Batman 1989. Dude, this movie, it's funny. Went back as I'm gearing it up to watch it last night. I remember, and I've said probably over the years, similar to what I think with like Raimi, right, with Spider-Man movies. I was like, I remember saying it on the air a couple times to Ellis that Batman 89 might have been dated, overrated, all those types of things too. I certainly didn't feel that way watching it again, and I don't know if it was the nostalgia that was kicking in for me, because I remember, because you humps, Coy, I don't even think you were born when this thing came out, but like
I was one.
We won, okay, and Winston was probably like 2. So
I was 2, dog.
Yeah.
I was out here in these streets.
That's why you said Sopranos. I was like, bro, I was like 7. I'm sorry. Like I just was.
Sopranos. What are you talking about? You can watch it on. It's streaming. It was a streaming phenomenon over the pandemic. So I don't.
Yeah, but I had Breaking Bad. Like we had, and I respect that Breaking Bad's only because of Sopranos. When Sopranos started, I was like 7. I was too wee.
Whatever. But this movie came out in '89. It was a massive phenomenon when it came out. I remember, I was not 1 or 2 when it came out, and it was about as big of a movie event as you could get at that time, because it wasn't like now. It's like every other week you might get a big Spider-Man comes out. That's a massive one, whether it's Endgame or these big movies that come out. It's like, okay, people boom, boom, boom. It wasn't like that in 1989. There were no, like this thing, it set off a craze, whether it was the merchandise, the fact that they got Jack Nicholson as the Joker, and they had a lot of positives that they don't have today, right? That if you were making a movie like this, first is that you're really the first one out of the gate. We're not including the Adam West one. You're the first one out of the gate minus Superman, because Batman was pretty far removed, and Superman at that point, Superman 4 had come out. It was a mess. People don't care about superhero movies, all that. Batman's darker. So by doing that, you can manipulate, and that's probably what we'll talk about a lot here, is you can manipulate the actual lore of Batman, whether it's Jack Napier and all that kind of stuff, and no one's really going to care. Because it's not like today. If you made a Batman movie and you did what they do, oh, that's not the origins of the Joker. Blah, blah, blah. People go nuts. But you had that. But casting Michael Keaton is something that probably doesn't happen and almost didn't happen in 1989. Bill Murray was supposed to be cast in this movie. So Tim Burton, him coming along. So there's a lot of stuff in between. But just the setup for this, the big event feel. Now, Winston, knowing because you're a Batman guy, so when this movie when were you first kind of made aware of this movie? When did you see this movie for the first time? And the first time you ever watched it, not with the rewatch,
Sure.
What did you think?
It's funny. I only saw it for the first time. I might have been in my early 20s. I had seen the museum scene a million times just because one of my best friends growing up, his mom worked for HBO, so she had it on in the house. So randomly, the museum scene kept coming on, and as a kid, I was out here being like, "Yo, the Joker's cool! Like he just out here playing music and destroying things. Like yeah, like same thing with the money drop, right?" I had seen Batman Returns, and then subsequently Forever and Robin a million times.
Okay,
like I have all three of those movies pretty steadily memorized. But watching this film, man, I remember the first time seeing it, having this mentality of both like, man, this is a little bit cheesy, but it's not cheesy in the sense of like when we were talking about like Spider-Man, where it was like over like like none of that. It's just it's 80s.
Yeah,
it's just 80s.
It's
and
80s.
and that's it. So it keeps that seriousness, it keeps that groundedness, but it's just very 80s.
Yeah.
And once you kind of acknowledge that, it's really easy to jack into what is like actually kind of a gripping story, to be honest with you.
It was Coy. So the other thing that there's a lot of not references, but I guess homage to the Adam West series. There's a lot of times it looks just like you could, if I sat someone down and said, hey, especially some of the stuff in the museum, right? But if I when the Joker comes in to first introduce himself to Vicky Vale and they're playing the Prince music and they're messing up the paintings, and right before as they come in, they're gassing all the people and people are like falling into cakes and stuff like that. Like that's as silly as it is, that's kind of plucked right out of the Adam West series.
It's so smart that Tim Burton, being the master of tone that he is, was able to add the Gothic style, especially in Gotham's architecture, with his dark sensibilities, but still reflect both sides of Batman. Because every time a new Batman comes out, including the one in March, everybody's like, oh, it's either too wacky or too gritty. There's never anyone happy, because I think Batman's one of those characters that people see in two ways because of Adam West. There are people that love the Batman in blue and his underwear on the outside, and there's also people that love the detective gritty Batman. So I think what they did, especially in those scenes, is they allowed, by using the Joker, to blend those tones so everyone was happy, which is something that to this day I don't think we really get to do, because we pick which lane we're going in. You can't have those hijinks in the Pattinson movie, really, and Tim Burton was able to do both, and I think that's one of the reasons it stands up so well over 30 years later.
It does. And I'll tell you this, the other thing, as I was looking at it and watching this movie, and I remember one of the big criticisms, or not even criticism, but just a statement made by a lot of people, myself included, was that, well, how much is this really a Batman movie and more of the Joker origin story and the Jack Nicholson movie? And a lot of that is true, where there's a heavy focus on him and understood because of the star power that he brought in at the time. Remember, this is 1989. Jack Nicholson is Jack Nicholson. You know,
one of the biggest paydays of all time is this movie for Jack.
Of course, and he got like points on the movie and all that. So he's like 52 years old, or whatever he is at the time that he does it. Michael Keaton is a comedian that Mr. Mom, that nobody thinks should be in this movie in the first place. So, but I will say that watching this movie back, Winston, there's a lot that is in depth with Bruce Wayne and who he is and the character and the fact that trying to find love and all these types of things. And there's some homages, by the way, to like classic film. There's a moment after Vicky Vale finally discovers that Bruce Wayne is Batman, and he's sitting in the cave. Alfred lets him in, and they say like, is whatever she says about love, is it possible to love, blah blah blah. And it's plucked right out of like a 40s or 50s movie, and it works really well in that particular scene. Did you see that as well?
No, I think so. I think that there's a lot of stuff in here. I keep trying to remember have you ever Danced with the Devil in the Pale Moonlight got more popular because of this, or if it was from something else?
I think it was this.
I think it was this, right? Yeah. But there was a lot of those moments where you're seeing pure filmmaking. I mean, we'll get to the Schumacher films, which have a special spot in my heart
Goodness.
For how ridiculous they are.
Yeah.
Like, bat nipples and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But you could see, like you said, as Coy said, yeah, and badass, exactly. Tap a badass. So either way, the idea that you, like Coy said, you get some of the zaniness. Again, the moment that sticks out more than anything other than the museum is the money drop, which is then immediately flipped with mass murder.
Yeah.
And the tonality there, that's the Joker. Like, so by picking the Joker, you have that option where it's like the whole concept of the Joker is chaos, and the chaos of the tone mixed with the greed of Gotham, which is a huge problem throughout the films because Gotham's a character, and what we perceive as trust. The guy had just poisoned all of our, cosmetics, and immediately, which is straight from the comic books, and immediately going into murder, both sets the tone, allows for the tone, and is the character. And for me, I've always kind of thought, the best combination of Bruce Wayne and Batman for me has been Christian Bale. I love Ben Affleck when he's in the suit, and I love a lot of them out of the suit, but there's definitely moments where I'm like, oh, there's Ben Affleck. Like, I definitely, when he got out of the car in the first appearance, I was like, it's the prick from Fashionable Mail, because Kevin Smith's ruined Ben for me. But when I see Michael Keaton, I'm able to go like, oh, that's Bruce Wayne in a different way. The scene in his house when he's like following them behind, looking at all that's like to me one of the best Bruce Wayne scenes, and I didn't remember that until this rewatch. How good
I forgot too.
He goes, it's from Japan. It's like, and how do you know that? Because I bought it in Japan. It's like,
it's the most Michael Keaton response.
It was so great,
but it was so well done.
And when he looks over and he's just like, Bruce Wayne. And then as he's leaving, he what does he say to him? He goes, "Oh yeah, and get Knox Grant." It was so it's
just Bruce Wayne.
It's Bruce Wayne mixed with Michael Keaton, which really works, and so it painted him like right away. I mean, it made Michael Keaton even more of a massive star, and rightfully so for the way that he was able to play with Burton. And Burton knew him, trusted him, obviously, and Beetlejuice come first. I think Beetlejuice was first, wasn't it?
I think it was like 2 years earlier. I think Michael Keaton's the Andrew Garfield of Batman's. I think Michael Keaton's the one that people forget. I think he's the one that actually embodies both characters. I think he's the one that's more directly from the comic books. I think Val Kilmer is your Toby. I think George Clooney is your Toby, and Val Kilmer is your Tom Holland. Val Kilmer should be great on paper in the cinematic essence. It didn't work because the writing. George Clooney is certainly the weird choice, like Toby is. Right. And you got your Michael Keaton. That's both. He's from the comics.
We'll get into the Val Kilmer stuff when we get to that movie, but I know so much more about that and all how that worked after watching Val. I don't know if you guys have seen the doc.
Yeah,
we'll get
incredible.
I would recommend, Winston, before we get into that movie, to watch Val, because that's he gives a lot of insight, or at least the part. I mean, the whole movie's great, but at least the part where he's talking about Batman, there's a lot of insight in there that we can use for that movie. But
it's on Amazon Prime. It's A24's first documentary.
Yes, it is, and it's Andrew Freed, my good friend Andrew Freed from Boardwalk Pictures produced it and found it.
Oh, it's incredible! Congrats to him. It's good work.
Yeah. All right. So as we talk about this movie and how it starts out and the tone of it, and Winston said it too, I think that what I definitely step back on things that I've said, this is really beautiful filmmaking for 1989. There is a lot. There's some camp. There's some stuff that happens too, like that you can today in 1989, you can give it a pass, but it wouldn't fly today as far as story and plot points. Like you spend all this time with Vicky Vale and the Joker climbing up the tower to figure out how the hell to get up there. And then random thugs just keep showing up. Like they just how'd they get up there, right? And then the stupidest thing, by the way, that I remember as a kid watching, going, cut that out. And I even audibly is when Commissioner Gordon, the bell falls, and Commissioner Gordon goes, ugh. So, what are you doing? Get out of here. 5 seconds. He's like, all right, come on, let's go. You should have said that the second the bell fell down. Get out of there. What are you doing trying to push it? Do a sit-up.
I mean, I think the biggest thing that sticks out to me with some of these action moments that you mentioned, I remember people getting so mad at, and understandably so, just because of where the tone was, but people getting so mad at Snyder about Batman's just out here killing everybody. Like, what the hell?
Murders everybody.
He kills so many people.
Here's the thing. He starts off not killing. He starts off holding the guy over the thing or whatever, and you go, okay, cool, Batman's not going to hurt nobody. When he realizes that the Joker is the one that killed his parents, he goes to the factory, drives the car in, puts the shields up, and blows up a factory of like 50 dudes.
Yeah,
like,
and he's
merciless.
Straight up just machine gunning people down on the float, and he tried, and I don't know how he didn't hit the Joker. He shoots
Dude,
with a machine gun,
he shoots
4 rockets and 2 Gatling guns, and he misses everything.
That's the kind of stuff I mean. Like, they get away with that in '89. You can't get away with that today. But like, and the other thing I'm hoping to throw some knowledge on Coy here, which I only get a couple of these every once in a while. Coy, did you read the adaptation of the comic book of Batman?
The stuff where Billy D. Williams becomes Two-Face and all that?
I don't know if that happens in the end. This is just a straight up adaptation of the novel of the movie that they made into off of the story, very detailed, and leading up to the release of the movie and then afterwards, and it was like a massive seller. Again, this was you were one. So, I
think that the 90s a late 80s adaptation I read in the 90s, but I haven't touched it since.
So do you remember what the difference between the movie is and the comic book in the float scene that Winston was talking about when he's gassing everybody?
Nope.
The money is not real. It's Joker face.
So it's Joker bucks the way Usher did that at the strip club? Oh my Lord.
So also, the money looks fake in the movie. That's fantastic.
It looks fake. And that's why I was looking for it, because the reason I think they maybe cut that part out or decided not to go with it is because in the comic book, people are going, what the hell? This is fake. And then he gasses everybody going, haha, got you again. But he does it. And the reason I think they make it look real is that everybody on the street's still jumping for money, and here he is ready to gas people. Although once the balloons are gone, everybody's just like, all right, try to kill us. That's cool. Nobody rockets.
If anything, I don't know if you noticed, people start then running at the bags on the float and just stealing money out of the bags. And he's like, he looks at his dude and goes, can I borrow your gun? That's for screwing this up. All right, get him out of here. I don't want nobody here.
That bothered me though back then, and it bothers me today. Bob was the only one loyal to him throughout the entire movie, and
it wasn't Bob's fault.
It wasn't Bob's fault, and Bob was he takes out Bob.
Agents of Chaos.
Yeah, but I just felt that was a little out of text, because I felt like he was pretty. He liked Bob throughout the entire thing, and he says there were tons of idiots you could have killed. His thugs, again, a pass for '89. His thugs are very similar to those stupid idiots in Hawkeye, the tracksuit morons. Like that, it's very similar. It's like, who's going to be intimidated by these guys? But he has more of a family than Boba Fett does in his show. So there's that.
I feel like the Jack Nicholson and all gets a lot of free pass, but to me, it definitely felt more like Jack Nicholson with makeup on than the Joker at any point. And a lot of people are like, he's my favorite, blah, blah, blah. And hey, respect to you. Everyone's got their own opinions and preferences. But to me, I never felt like, even as a kid, that was the Joker. I felt like it was Jack Nicholson doing his, like, I'm a crime boss thing. So I felt like the killing of the guy was at least a little chaotic, as opposed to Jack just being jacked most of the movie. So that didn't bother me as much as, like, there aren't a lot of Joker isms except for the plot-based ones. His acting just feels like Jack Nicholson to me.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's also a product of, by the time that you saw, what were you, like 10 the first time you saw this movie, Coy?
I think I was 6. I was pretty young.
Right, so it's in the mid 90s when you're watching this movie, and by the time you really grasp who Jack Nicholson is, you're probably 15, 16, whatever, when you really start to appreciate his work. So that's a lot of time removed to become even more of a star inside of that zeitgeist, right? To you, so Jack Nicholson is Jack Nicholson. He's the guy at the Laker games. He's the guy doing all this stuff, and so it's hard. And we've talked about this before. When you pick big movie stars into these roles like this, it's hard to separate. For me, it's not that, because I was definitely aware of Jack Nicholson at the time I saw this, but he didn't have that same type of thing that he's got maybe in like late 90s or 2000 when you saw it, as a teen then. But I thought that he adds a lot of insanity, like some of the stuff that he does and the choices that he makes, like even when he's like sitting at the desk after he kills Jack Napier and he's like, boop, boop, and he's just losing his mind. Like, there's certain insanity choices that he makes that it's almost like plucked from some of the stuff he did in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and all these roles, and the way that he's able to, it is a really great performance. It really is.
I definitely caught some Shining Nicholson in there for sure. 100%. And I guarantee you that's probably why they tapped him for this. Yeah, well, I'll say design wise, as far as the Joker, I didn't love the permanent smile, the way like it's different than what they did with Ledger's, because with those scars the way they are, he can still emote. That's the thing with the Joker. Everything is a joke to him, but there are some serious moments where the Joker is mad, where the Joker is upset. And so production wise, just looking at that, that might be a critique I might have on that. But I loved him readily playing with regular makeup to look like a normal dude and try and trick people in that regard. I thought little
and the
things
water
like that
scene
were really well done.
Well, that's why all of this is so, like, as I mentioned, you mentioned that the look of the permanent smile. That's why I mentioned earlier on that it's okay that they get a lot of passes in this movie, and rightfully so. One of the passes that they get is you can mess with the lore, you can mess with these things, because this wasn't the same type of fan base, and it weren't the same type of executives making movies at that point. You know, these are people, there are a lot of old school people making movies who probably didn't understand what the hell was going on with the Batman. But here's this hotshot director that did Beetlejuice, did all these movies. Let's get him in here. Fine, let's get Burton. He's gonna do Batman for us. Well, Superman hit, maybe Batman will hit for us. And you know, and that's kind of how it all went down, because the look itself, that's why I mentioned the Adam West stuff. There's a lot of Adam West stuff. Even this thing with but mixed, as you guys mentioned before, mixed with a very dark tone with it, where the perfect example of that is when Napier meets with all the crime bosses, and then Tony, whatever the guy's name is, it's the silly thing. He buzzes the guy into a skeleton as the guy burns him, and he's like, "I'm glad you're dead." I'm glad you're dead. Like, that whole thing is so good, but it's so stupid. Like, what does that buzzer do? Like, what is it? Where do you get that? And he goes, where does he get these wonderful toys? You have a buzzer.
That was my thought. My thought was like, bro, you have an acid flower, you have a shocking buzzer, you have a gun with a little bang flag, and then you pull a massive revolver you use as like an anti-aircraft gun.
He's got a lot of toys.
What are you
a lot of toys. He's just that's the envy of the Joker. But and the other one is Robert Wuhl, right? Robert Wuhl pops up, and like, who would have thought he's as Knox? He really adds a lot to this movie. He really does. He adds a lot of personality to it, and I love the idea that he's trying. So he strikes out more than the worst player on, like, the Yankees or any other team. Like, he keeps going. He keeps going after Vicky Vale throughout the entire movie, and she's just like, "Yeah, cut it out. Here's a kiss on the cheek, stupid." Right? And but he keeps trying. He tries to cock block Wayne a couple times. Your friend Wayne's really screwed up, huh? And she's like, "Do you realize that you're probably running me back into his arms because I want to try to help him now?" And all of that stuff. There was but he was great. And his comedic timing worked very well. And he leads us into the story inside of how no one believes that the bat is real, and nobody believes that these things, and how he's ballsy as hell to go up to Harvey Dent. I really wish they would have capitalized more on the Harvey Dent storyline with Billy D. Williams. I know they were probably going with that eventually.
That was the third one.
That was the plan. They were building him up, and then they were going to have Billy D. And that's the thing. You take an actor as amazing as Billy D., and that's the thing with Harvey Dent. Super charismatic. So then when the tragedy befalls him, it is such a fall from grace. So I hate that never came to fruition.
There's a comic book out right now. They're on issue 6 of Batman 89, and it's Batman 89 story continued, and it's Billy D. Williams Two-Face. So they actually adapted what would have been the third film into the comic with Wayans as Robin and everything.
You've just sold me on a comic book, and I haven't read a comic book.
Yes.
You got to send me that link. I'll read that.
Yeah, well, it's incredible too. My whole life's mission accomplished just now.
Probably just because I just watch this, but I do have a lot of questions as far as the mechanics on how certain things work. I love the Batmobile in this one. I still love it.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
I do too.
See it in the Flash. I love that when he's just like shields, and all those, the way that plays. The one question I do have about Batman's suit though. That's the one thing. How does he shave his balls? That's what how is he shaving his balls? Nobody knows the question to it, but I think I have an answer, gentlemen. I believe that Batman is using Manscaped. I really do believe so. I believe that he is using Manscaped, and I believe that this is exactly what he's doing, and I'll tell you why. He's excited. We're excited. And cheers to all you guys to 2022 and resolutions that you can actually keep this year. How about having clean and shiny balls all year round? Our sponsors at Manscaped, they're here to save your balls and make the ball drop. You like that? Into 2022. It's the cleanest and sexiest ever. See your New Year's resolution with good intentions and join those 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. but you got to use the exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com, use the code big thing, appropriate, for 20% off and free shipping. So many things I'm going to be doing. I have a lot of this stuff, the nose hair stuff. I got the ear hair stuff. I don't want to look at my grandpa. My grandpa did. He had like wires coming out of his head. I don't want to do that. I want to be able to use the this is what I use often. I use all this stuff, to be honest with you. The shampoo, body wash, all of it. It's a new year. It's a new me. With the global leaders in below the waist grooming. This year, take your package to the next level with Performance Package 4.0, and it's got that brand new ultra premium body wash. I love this stuff. Grooming routine, it's not complete. You got to use the Crop Preserver and the Crop Reviver before showing off your 2022 self. This unique formulations take care of the smelliest part of your body, and it's a big boost to your confidence into the new year. To complete the set, Manscaped threw in their Shed Travel Bag and their anti-chafing boxer briefs as a free gift to keep all those goodies stored comfortably. Now, whether your resolution is to work out more or travel to new places, you got to be sure to travel to manscaped.com for the exclusive offer, 20% off, free shipping. But you got to use that code, big thing. Choose it right, and cheers to new balls in 2022. Get 20% off, free shipping with that code, big thing. Manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Don't forget to use that code, big thing. It's a new year. No pubes in 2022, everybody. Don't do it. Manscaped. All right. Let's bring them back. How'd you like that transition?
That was great, man. It took me so off guard. I was about to talk about how he can't move his neck to save his life, but
but his bat balls are svelte. No chafing.
They're nice. Dude, you don't want that stick. You don't want all that hair getting tangled up with that latex thing.
You're
stuck.
You talk about that. That's a wonderful toy, Jack, right there.
Yep, smooth.
Lots of stuff that's going on in this movie. I'll tell you though, I love Michael Caine. I'm loving Andy Serkis. But I'll tell you what, and Jeremy Irons, but this is my favorite Alfred.
4 of them. I mean, he's got the leg.
Really?
I'm wondering if there's anything they play around with Flashpoint, because the fact that we've got one Alfred for 3 different Batmans is interesting. Like, I don't know if that becomes a thing. I don't know if they make a line of dialogue about it. One Alfred.
Is he playing? He's playing the same Alfred for all 3?
Yeah. And like, obviously back in the 90s, they didn't care about continuity. They didn't care about multiverse stuff. But
you kept Gordon and Alfred and changed your Batman.
I misunderstood what you were saying. Because they remember in the Val Kilmer one, they treat it as if that's Michael Keaton.
He's the same Michael Keaton. Yeah, because
they
even doesn't make sense.
Right. They throw a reference to Vicky Vale at one point, but it's such a different tone and different movie that you're right, it doesn't make sense. But this movie plays very well. People who are watching it now and trying to put a Nolan spin or a Matt Reeves spin on it, or hell, even the Zack Snyder spin on Batman, you're going to be super disappointed, because that's not what this movie is, as Coy said. And there's a lot of corny stuff, there's a lot of 80s stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that I think that took big risks and kind of paid off. And I think that it's the relationship with Vicky Vale and Bruce Wayne that really worked. The chemistry's great, and Kim Basinger is just a fantastic choice for this role.
Oh yeah.
And Jack Nicholson and the Jack Palance stuff in the beginning, because you are my number one, a guy. Like that whole that's. I mean, how many times is that quoted all the time? I think Sam Levine quotes that when he wakes up in the morning.
Jesus Christ!
That tracks.
Yeah, he looks in the mirror and then he walks out of the house. But yeah, man. So Winston, talk to me a little bit about some of the stuff that stood out to you in this movie, particular scenes that you really enjoyed. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is probably my favorite vehicle design across all the Batman films. I never really liked the idea of the Batmobile turning like more and more tankish. Not that like it doesn't have tank stuff, but like the idea of like essentially a James Bond car, but with like bat emblems. Same thing. I think is the best Batwing design. The fact that it just is that perfect kind of circle, just with the bat cutouts. It's all my favorite stuff in that regard, and I think about that all the time. I also love the fights, even though sometimes they can be a little corny. You get a little bit of the Indiana Jones thing with the sword guy, that kick to the face. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, like,
Does it twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's two separate overly acrobatic thugs.
Yes.
Like the dude that jumps in with a kick and they do the zoom in. Like, I don't know if y'all have seen Undercover Brother, but there's one point where he does a flying kick and he's flying for like a good 10 seconds. So the dude, you see his leg just.
You're not talking about Undercover Brother. How about the big black guy that kicks the crap out of Batman in this?
Oh, that guy just beat Batman.
And then, of course, he gets murdered. He instantly, Batman goes, you know what, enough of this, and hits him into the bell and throws him off the
Someone
tower.
can beat me, murder him.
Another guy's out. You're beating me to a pulp. I'm going to grab you like a Shawn Michaels move in 1994 and flip you down and watch you die.
The body count of this Batman is insane.
It's high, bro. It's high.
Yeah, it is. It is. He kills everybody. And he even says to the Joker, he goes, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, like, he's not a good guy. And, like, that's cool because it's Michael Keaton, but it's also, like, for me, not Batman to me.
I mean, I don't know about not a good guy, because I mean, a lot of times when we see people in our movies that are good guys that have to go through, like John McClane, good guy, kills a lot of people.
But like in the comics, Batman would have gone in and lured all the thugs out, and then he would have dropped the bomb. Like in this, he's like,
you're saying he makes different moral choices. Doesn't mean he's not a good guy, because he is. I mean, he's a good guy. He goes there for a lot of reasons. His
positive guy.
Right. His look. They even Robert Wuhl says it. Your dude's messed up.
Dude.
Yeah, he'll murder you and throw you down. And then, as Winston said, he's not even if you don't have a line in this movie, he's going to drive in. Not even drive in himself. He's going to remote control your extra ass and blow you up. Like, that's what he did.
Not even worth his physical time.
No, he blew up the extras.
I mean, realistically, Batman has a tendency, if you look at like the D&D scale of what kind of character, normally Batman is lawful good. He's not going to murder anybody. He's always going to do whatever. In this case, he's more chaotic good, where he's like, at first he's like, I'm going to get the job done. And the minute he finds out that Jack Napier is the same dude that killed his parents, a switch flips where he goes from, I'm going to lightly maim you to, I don't care anymore. I'm blowing up factories and throwing people off of bell towers. And
if you ever had the opportunity to curse and get away with it, it was right then, and you blew it. And he had the opportunity to go batshit.
I mean, I'm trying, Kristian. You have to understand. I tried to turn the switch down,
but I couldn't let that one go. But there's a lot in there. But I think that's he does. I was comparing. And not saying which I like better, just comparing the versions of like Bale and this Bruce Wayne, right? And Bale, his Batman was just kind of, as a kid, off the cuff, just getting angry, trying to kill Falcone, doing all this stuff, and then has to be trained by Ra's al Ghul and does all these, and there's just so much more to the training that you get, and you see why every version of Batman is messed up, and rightfully so. But this version, like he's got a screw loose. I mean, he's a good guy, but he's got a screw loose, and you see it a couple times. The one that stands out to me the most is not the big over the top. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. That was calculated. It's when the Joker, by the way, getting away with things, throws a pen into a guy's neck. There's a cop that's standing in the back going like this.
Bro.
There's a bunch of cops watching murder happen on the steps.
And he's like dancing around. Nobody says anything to him. But Bruce Wayne is standing around and just gets clipped in the arm. And he's just like, whatever, I have 7 of these jackets. And it's just like, it's just that those little moments, those things kind of stood out to me more in this than they had in the past.
Well, I mean, I've always liked that Bruce Wayne is the broken mask that Batman wears. Like, Batman is who he actually identifies as, and Bruce is the facade. I do feel like in this iteration, Michael Keaton is able to get that deranged in a really beautiful way. I feel like we're going to get a very interesting, like, the clenched fist of Robert Pattinson is going to be interesting, because it feels like him fighting thugs is his therapy. Like, he's a broken, violent man. I don't consider Michael Keaton a broken, violent man. I consider him more like pathological, psychological. He's got more like inner demons. And I think that was going to be reflected more in the Ben Affleck stuff, because we saw that bat they built where he was going to be looking at the entity of the bat concept in a different way. So I feel like Ben Affleck's and Keaton's Batman are the most similar to me, because Val and George Clooney are kind of similar in that billionaire playboy element, and then Bale to me is a just sociopath. Like, Bale doesn't relate to people. Bale is just training and trying to fix himself, but he's got that Bateman thing going on. So they're all really different. But to me, Affleck and Keaton are the most similar in their take on what Batman is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, I think so. I certainly think so. And I would also make that argument that you said, Coy, that I think Bale specifically, I think, is more Batman pretending to be Bruce.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, Keaton feels more Bruce, who also happens to be Batman. You know what I'm saying?
To me, it feels like a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
To me, the mask feels like a coping mechanism,
yeah.
as opposed to, like, I've always seen Batman as Bruce Wayne as the coping mechanism.
You know what he says
that
though?
he has to do publicly.
I agree.
You know what he says though inside of that's why I think I lean with Winston, where I see, like, because Bale once he's Batman just seems like that's who he is. That's who he is. That's who he's supposed to be. As where Keaton even says it in the movie, it's a job to him, right? And he says it. He goes, "It's time to go to work. It's time to go to work." And like to him, it's a job. Whereas I think for Bale, that's who he is, and he's just he's putting on the facade. And
because you see a few scenes
the
in
ballerina
dinner
thing.
Yes,
for me, the ballerina thing is the Bale moment of, okay, how can I use Bruce Wayne for Batman to get what he wants?
Right.
Or him studying Aaron Eckhart at dinner as Batman, but wearing the mask of Bruce Wayne to get into the dinner.
That's why I think, because in this, he really is Bruce Wayne trying to explain the other side of him, because even that whole scene where he's like, I'm Batman. He's trying to get it out. Like he's trying to, so it is him trying to give, and but he breaks it down. He breaks this conversation that we're having down in that scene. And he's just like, you ever wake up in the morning and you do this and he's having this whole, he's trying, and he's failing miserably at it. And even says, like, to a photographer who is on the road all the time, never sleeps. And he's like, you have that person, and that person does this. And she's like, no. He goes, no. I forget it. Trying to figure it out on how to make it work, and it's like it's a great scene, and it takes those, and it was the risk, I think, that you can understand studio executives at the time who maybe inappropriately, not inappropriately, that's not right, who not justified, judge people and stereotype people, going, the comedy guy, Mr. Mom, who's going to do this, the guy that was in whatever TV show he was in, and that guy. Really? And then when you realize that, because you see, this is the brilliance of what Michael Keaton did. He allowed other actors, he opened the door for a lot of actors in that capacity of, because you can have that conversation. Wait, we're going to put Jim Carrey in a serious movie. Well, look, Michael Keaton did a Batman. Like, how many times, and how many times did you hear, like, when people, like, the reverse of this, when Heath Ledger was cast, nobody thought he should be cast as a Joker, right?
Right.
And then people started to say a few things in that side of that argument, and it was, but everybody said that about Keaton and Batman, and look how that played out. And now they're in the same category. Well, people said that about Keaton and Batman. People said that about Ledger and the Joker. Let's wait to see what they can do.
Pattinson and Batman, man, every one of them. Like, it feels like it's a tradition.
Don't bring that up, because Kristian's going to go right back to me being on Collider Live with him, and I went at Pattinson for a minute.
Pattinson's going to crush. We're doing anti-Pattinson?
I think so.
He sat down for Collider Live. We sat down, we talked, and Roxy and I were ringing the bell for Pattinson before he was cast. And then that might even be the time Winston came on, before he was even in cast. And we said, like, hey, we want him. And Winston's like, the Twilight Kid? No. And I said, Winston, you got to watch The Rover. You got to watch Party Time, what the movie's called. And those are the movies you got to watch with the Safdie brothers when he did. And this kid is a great actor. He's a great actor. The problem is that very similar to what we're talking about here.
That's what I mean. The parallel is, a lot of times you cast outside of the public perception of the actor. Because Heath was seen as a Knight's Tale in 10 Things, and, like, that guy's one of the best actors of all time.
Yeah, so Keaton comes in and does this stuff, but uses those comic sensibilities in scenes like that.
And that's how you balance alongside Burton this hokey with dark tone. You don't have actors that can play both sides, like your Nicholson, like your Keaton, like all these people. You're not going to make this movie work.
There's just masterful performances in this movie, and Kim Basinger as well. And there's just so many the performances and the tone and the back and forth, and watching these pros, these kind of legends go at it. You can see these moments and why it just plays. And it's funny, like I think that we've said this so many times about some of the movies we've watched in this rewatch series, and I'm glad and one of the reasons I'm glad we're doing this is because I think that as you get older and you watch movies more in a different way, you can appreciate them in different ways, right? And I had a stance tone on two of them, and then this one for sure, where I said, okay, maybe it's in that Raimi, maybe it's a little overrated. I don't feel this movie's overrated anymore. I really don't. I think that it for the ground that it set, the tone that he was going for, and everything that he really tried to put into it, I loved it. And the other one was Batman Returns. I hate that movie. I hate it. I'm wondering.
Really?
I hate it, but I'm wondering. Remember, I've refused to watch it. I haven't watched that movie in maybe 15 years. So I don't.
Why do you hate it?
Because the 1989 movie is everything that you were just saying. It's Batman mixed with Tim Burton. It's about maybe 60-40 Batman over Burton, right? Batman Returns is 80% Tim Burton and 20% Batman.
So you're not a Burton fan, or you don't like that it sacrificed Batman?
I just don't like. I do like. Beetlejuice is one of my favorite movies of all time. Edward Scissorhands, I love. I love old school Burton for sure. There's no doubt about it. I felt that when a director does it, it's very similar to what we talked about in Spider-Man, right? Sometimes Raimi overpowered Spider-Man.
Got it.
And I like the tone to complement the material more so than the material just showcasing the director.
I respect that. You can definitely tell once you get to Returns, and I rewatched it, helping Jandreau prep last season. I don't like it as much.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it.
I did as a kid.
I'll watch
it. It's ironically, I can say it's a better film than Forever and Robin, but I put both Forever and Robin above Returns for me just because
we're watching them.
There is a nostalgia there that just jacks me in.
We are going to have such different rankings this time, as opposed to Returns is next to Dark Knight for me.
But
I like Returns.
Sir.
Dark Knight Returns for me.
Wow.
No.
I know.
So it's going to be interesting.
Like Dorina loves Batman Returns. It's her favorite.
I think Returns is like honestly one of the best superhero films.
I gotta see it again. I'm not gonna. I'm just telling you that's why I enjoy the rewatch, because even I really had a lot of nostalgia watching it last night, and we're not talking about it enough. The music is out of control.
Oh my God, Danny Elfman, man,
and not just Elfman, Prince, right? Prince, the
original songs,
Party Man, like all that stuff, like the Party Man, the stuff that he's going on. This is why
trust,
But this is why I keep trying to tell people how big this movie was when it came out, because Prince, this is 1989 Prince.
So Prince is peak Prince right
now.
Peak 1989 Prince, and they got him to do the whole soundtrack. Plus, you had Danny Elfman doing the score. You had all this. I mean, when I tell you that there were for weeks, there were lines around buildings to see this movie. Like it was
$400 million, especially in '89. That's
when movies were like $6. Movies cost like the actual ticket.
Yeah, 89 that's massive. It was huge, and I think that at that point, it's like you do want to go back into a DeLorean and tell some of these idiot producers at the time who were old school producers, right? And a lot of them going, start making more of these things, put them all together, get Batman, get Christopher Reeve and Michael Keaton in a movie, do it, because people forget before the Avengers, it was almost unheard of to get those types of movie stars in movies together and pair them all up again, right? It was impossible to do, and because as a kid, and I'm sure as action fans for you guys growing up, How bummed are you to not be able to go into a catalog and watch a prime Stallone and a prime Schwarzenegger together, right? It just never was going to happen back then. But that's why the Avengers did such a thing. But to see Michael Keaton and Reeves together, that would have been awesome.
Apparently, they wanted to do Nicolas Cage's Superman teaming up with Keaton was the goal. Like they wanted to bring in that Superman, and the end goal was a world's finest movie with the two of them against Lex and Joker was the goal. And apparently, the third movie was going to be Two-Face, Scarecrow, and Joker's coming back because there was a Joker daughter, and Nicholson was going to come back as like the ghost of the Joker. The story's insane. Wow, so like the third movie was bananas.
Yeah,
that's one thing I will say about this that I didn't quite love. It happens from time to time, but the Joker is never spurned on by a love interest. You have Harley Quinn, and there's sort of a love there, but he really just abuses her. He doesn't really. So for him to be
that's why the characters,
So to be like, oh, this woman, she's perfect. I have to do everything to get her from this. That threw me off a little bit.
That's what I'm saying. You can't do that for this movie when it comes to
adaptation translation in the 80s. Like it's an adaptation of Batman, not a translation of comic books.
The whole thing with Jack Napier and the Joker shouldn't have an origin story. A lot of people will say, right? And that's like, but he does in this movie. He doesn't do this the way they did in the comics. That's not what now. You can't get away with that stuff now. You can't do because people are. You can try. And that's why I'm very curious to what's going to happen with say Uncharted, which is a game that people just love, swear by, and already going, that's not Sully. I've said it. That's not selling like Sully. That's Sully. It's Mark Wahlberg. Come on. That's not what he does. That's not how he is. And when you have enough reference at that point, people just, oh, there's a Batman movie coming out. That's cool. I'm going to watch Batman. No one was saying, I wonder if they're going to connect it to this. They were like a pocket full of comic book nerds, but they didn't give a crap because they were just happy that Batman was coming on screen. That's all it was. So it's like, we're spoiled by it now. We're spoiled by it. We see movies like studios are using them as everything. So
I don't disagree, and obviously one of the biggest things with film writing, I mean, a lot of people will tell you that you need to anchor it into some sort of relationship. It doesn't always have to be loving; it can be familial, things like that. So I know that is something to kind of get there. The idea of him just wanting to take over or destroy Gotham, I thought would have been enough. But I get it; it's still the 80s. So you gotta do something.
And you can see the pitch meeting. Hey, guess what we got? We got Jack Nicholson. And then we're going to get Kim Basinger. Everyone loves Kim Basinger. Michael Keaton's going to be, Bruce Wayne's going to be going after the Joker monster. We'll put it together. And instead, it's the 80s trope. It's the movies trope. It's all that stuff. And it was movie formula that worked tremendously. It worked tremendously. But for people that are going to go back and analyze it as a Batman purist film, you're going to find tons of stuff that you're going to go, oh, wait a minute.
And I very intentionally avoided that in my looking at it. Like I was watching it going like, don't even acknowledge the comic books. Don't even acknowledge. Because to me, the production design is so special, and what they built in the movie, because it is an adaptation, is so unique. Like I love this Gotham. I love how fully immersed it feels. I love the extras being like in that wardrobe that felt like Art Deco meets 80s meets like everything from production design, sound design, Gotham. Everything is so immersive that I didn't mind that they took some leaps because at the time you got to get these movies made.
Yeah, this is more of a homage and more of a adaptation of the Adam West show than it is the comic books, because there's tons of stuff that was going and nobody's trying to put together comic book lore in the Adam West show in the 60s. That was pretty much like Saturday Night Live for Batman. But it was beloved, and people absolutely you can tell how many people loved it. And I believe Tim Burton loved it also, because you see there's so many, like even like the thugs for sure, even after he kills Bob and then he's like, all right, tell him, and the guy goes, get out of here. And he's like screaming around, and it's like those thugs, if you try to like say, well, wait a minute, they just saw this guy kill his number one guy, aren't they going to be hesitant? Nah, they're just back to business.
I wish we'd gotten more of Eckhart. Was that the name of the
think about the future? And who knows who Eckhart is from another classic franchise?
I just thought of Aaron Eckhart, who plays Harvey Dent
later on in the 20 years later.
Just funny to me.
That's why I'm here. Porkins.
Oh yeah,
from Star Wars Episode 4. Porkins.
This is
okay. Everybody,
that
right now
is the same actor. You have a point.
Put your comments in there, guys. The last two episodes, I've schooled these two humps.
What's funny to me is
not
he's
on the
clearly
electro thing though. Not on the electro thing.
However, someone told me in the electro thing that he was actually the way he tapped in was through that computer. That's how he found out about Peter, through the computer. But it's not.
But I'll send you a video because they pointed out a good point though. Is that like again the power grid and the internet are two very different things. So they definitely whitewash.
This is a Batman show. We're not talking about
See, this is the one thing I don't like about digital. Kristian has too much power.
Infinite power. The power of electro, internet, digital. What's funny to me is like he's clearly inspired by Bullock. Like the character is a character in the comic books, like the cop that's leaning dirty and all that stuff. They just renamed him. He even looks like the character in the comic books.
I thought he was Bullock when they were pulling up on him. I was like, oh, okay.
Well, what a great guy to cast. Not him.
Right. Now, who's the lead gangster? Jack Palance. What's his name in this? Who does Napier work for?
The one that Napier
kills. He's like a Marconi kind of parallel.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like
they renamed everybody just because.
Just change it because that's my point. In 1989, no one cares.
Oh, sorry, I didn't say Falcone, but I said Marconi. But Falcone is the
no one.
I let it slide.
Yeah, no one.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I just saw the comments.
Well, that's what I'm saying. In 89, no one cares. And there's no Twitter. There's no Facebook. No one cares. So you can change it whatever the hell you want to change it because, once again, you got Jack Nicholson. So you can do what you want to do. You know, Jack wants to be like the stuff that was quoted all the time that has died down in time is like, where they get a load of me, right? There's so many quotable lines that he would do. And as we mentioned, where does he get these wonderful toys? That stuff was quoted for so long and used. It was like the main everybody was quoting Batman. You couldn't walk down the street without seeing the Batman shirt or hearing the Prince soundtrack. Like when I tell you this movie, like this is one of there's Star Wars that you remember in the 70s, Superman that you remember in the 70s, Jaws, the E.T., Goonies, right? I mean, Goonies wasn't as big; it just became a thing. But still, those movies that really kind of stood out. And then, obviously, Batman was like the big premiere event that happened to close out the '80s and like the big. There's other obviously Empire Strikes Back and other movies like that, but Raiders of the Lost Ark. But this was something, man. And just like, what the hell, Batman? They're gonna do a Batman movie? How are they gonna do that? And I think that he really pulls it off.
It holds up better than I was afraid. Like I was a little worried about this rewatch because of the time and because of how legendary this movie is. It's hard to live up to a legend, but it actually was better on this rewatch. And I'm really curious about Returns because I've always thought of Returns as a marked improvement. So I'm curious how it holds up.
The last time you saw it?
About 3 years ago.
Okay.
But I hadn't seen this one in about 7. So this was cool to go back to. So I'm curious if those are more parallel.
I saw it twice. I saw it Christmas 2020 because I was doing a bunch of Christmas movies because Batman Returns is a Christmas movie, honestly. Fully. And then again last year for training and whatnot. And my beef, if the one issue we maybe had with this was that we spent maybe less time with Bruce and Batman in the film than we did with the Joker. Like we spent a lot of, but you do that because it's Nicholson.
Right.
When you get to Returns, you spend so much time with Catwoman and the Penguin, mainly the Penguin because of his whole campaign to run for mayor. It's kind of like, well, then this isn't really a Batman film. This is a Penguin film.
That's our Spider-Man conversation that we have. Like, and people always give the Spider-Man the crap of it or other movies the crap, but Batman Returns doesn't get as much crap for it. And are there too many villains? Right. That's and I know what Batman Forever gets that all the time, especially when you have the star power of Jim Carrey at the time. So the second movie doesn't, but we'll get into that. We'll get into that for sure. Overall, really enjoyed it. I think it's harder for us to say. I think this is going to, when we start talking about The Flash and we bring up this movie, we can talk if it's going to tie in or not. So none of these movies are going to tie into the Batman. It's a separate universe altogether. I think when we get to the Nolan movies, we'll be able to talk more about how consistent it is and how it kind of looks like in tone. I know that the producers have been on record saying that they want to challenge Nolan's hold on the premiere kind of Batman hold. So that's inspiring. That's kind of cool to hear overall. But this one, no one's ever really going to touch this movie as far as what it did for the Batman franchise. And then there's another movie, 3 movies after this that almost killed the Batman franchise. But this one,
never leave the cave without it.
No.
Hey man, as I told Lady Freeze, as I pulled her plug, this is a one-woman show. Like, bro.
Wow. I'm telling you, I don't know. That one.
I'm worried about 3 weeks from now. I'm worried about it.
Well, we got a lot to talk about. That was 1989 Batman. The other thing that we have been doing that has been a lot of fun, and Coy does it a lot too, is that we go through the comments. You guys are in there, and you're able to respond to anything that you want to talk about. We'll go in there. I've been responding to every comment on this channel. It's getting
commendable.
The good news is that it's getting harder to do. It's not because of time. I'm trying to do it. It's just that a lot of comments are coming in, and challenge me, man. Challenge me. Like, put your comments in there. I'm not going to get to it like right away. I'll try to. But I go through, and my wife always be one of these things. What are you doing right now? You're not supposed to be working. I'm like, oh, no, I'm working. I'm chatting to some friends. And so that I got to sneak it, but I'm still doing it. And
be careful, man. You're going to get in trouble.
Too late. So make sure you head on over to the comment section and do that. Make sure that you do that, because we want you guys to get as involved. And I think because you guys have been doing that, and I especially can make this case because of The Last Jedi, there's been some really cordial and fun conversation overall. The funny thing is, you would think that if somebody says something negative or stupid, that I was going to be the one to lash out. It's been Coy. I have
zero tolerance.
I have been nice. Coy's gonna go for your neck like
keyboard cowboys. Zero tolerance. 2022.
Like Randy Savage trying to break Ricky Steamboat's larynx back in Saturday Night's Main Event.
People get brave from a distance, and I don't respect that, cowards. Let's go.
I won't be doing that, but I will be. I don't want to inspire it, but I want to actually continue, and it's so rare. Maybe like a percentage out of it.
Oh, people are great.
We're not telling you need to agree with us. We actually sometimes really hope that you disagree a lot of times. Let's have a conversation about it. That's what the comment section is for. If you have not subscribed to us on Apple Podcasts or followed us on Spotify, also very, very important. Helps us get sponsors, helps us to do more of these shows. And it is Friday, so I can make this announcement. We have brand new tiers up on the SEN Live Patreon. We're going to be doing one extra watch along per month. We're going to let you guys vote on it. That's new on the Patreon. We're going to do an extra additional big thing once a month. We're going to do an extra additional Sith, potentially one of the two. There's a lot of new tiers, and the link is in the description. All right, that's Batman 1989. That's Coy Jandreau. That's Winston A. Marshall. Gentlemen, we'll be back next week for Coy's favorite movie of all time.
I can feel the comments. They're coming.
They're coming. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I think more people are going to be on your side than you think on that one, Coy.
Catwoman is one of the best comic adaptations ever.
That I'm not going to disagree with. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the big thing. It is Rewatch. We'll see you next time.